Between the two of them. The inside of Coates. Barker gets too heavily involved. And that's Whitehead and Coates. A very warm Wednesday welcome to the VRRC Cupra Cup, the event of the season. We are in the Netherlands, or Holland, call it what we will, same place. Holland, of course, very, very well known for things like windmills, tulips, clogs. Not many people know that it is a world leader in potatoes. Not many people know that, but it fully explains why Max Verstappen has a chip on his shoulder. Someone who doesn't have a chip on his shoulder is Reeve Taylor, who's with me. How are you doing?
I might have a chip on my shoulder, but it's great to be here. Thank you very much, Richard. Of course, also known for plenty of great racing tracks.
It is, including the one we're going to look at. We're going to have a hot lap and a look at the track a little bit later on. But Assen TT, superb venue to kick us off. We've got some exciting news from Rich Hayden, which will be coming up a little bit later on, after we've taken a few moments to look at and the current championship table. So, talking of last week, we were the other side of the pond, Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, and your race winner was Joel Lask, or the top of the points was Joel Lask. He did win a race, actually, of course. He was second in the opener to Eric, and then took victory in race 2, all the way back from, I think, 11th on the grid. Eric Axelsen had a decent day as well, with pole position, winning the opener, and a little bit of misfortune, which saw him 8th in race 2, but still in second position on the day's points. Andy Dorman had a good day as well, a brace of 5th positions, netting him 3rd place last weekend. So today, our penultimate round, and we'll have a look at the championship as we come in. First position, and carrying 30 kgs of ballast, as you can see, is Eric Axelsen, 11 points clear of Scott Bugner. Scott is back with us this evening, which is great to see. Welcome back, Scott. Joel Lask with plenty of ballast on board. 44 kg, third position on 140. Then it's Andy Dorman on 131. Andy Carroll and Brad Smith next up. Top 10 completed by Craig Curtis, Chris Blakey, Josh Martin and Thomas Potter. To be gunning to try and get further up into the top 10, of course, with the other drivers as we go along. 11th is Adam Lyle from Johnny Ogden and Nathan Smith. Alex Walker in 14th, tied on points with Olivia Krzyżanowska. Then it's Lee Piercy and Catherine Potter in 17th. Catherine continuing to learn her trade very well indeed. Sam Milner 18th from Alakai Gar and Paul Laramie in 20th. 21st, Darren Butler, John Jones 22nd from Kenny Press, Sam Walton, Matt Smith and Mark Stokes. So they are all our point scoring drivers, and we're looking forward to obviously this round and next week, and also looking at something special.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. I just thought I would advertise our next championship, which is due to start on October the 9th. So we're in going with our usual tradition where we switch between front and rear wheel drive. Currently we're in Cupras, which obviously are front, and we're going a little bit classic. So we're going to go for the E36 M3 Cup. Using a really good model, actually. It's one that we've adapted. We've done a load of work on the physics of this car. The Cupra that the drivers are racing with at the moment is a fantastic car, but this one matches it with regards to how it handles. So really looking forward to that. It's an 8-round championship, and we are going to follow the kind of German touring car schedule. So we're doing, as you can see, 6 rounds within Germany and a couple of rounds in one in Zandvoort, obviously in the Netherlands, and then Austria with Red Bull Ring. Really looking forward to it. It's always a really popular thing with us when we do like a classic touring cars championship. But the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to mix up the format. We've done for so long 2 25-minute races with a reverse grid on the second race. We're going to mix it up a little bit, and we're going to have 3 different races with 2 qualifying sessions. So qualifying 1, which is going to be a little bit different to normal. Normally you give them 15 minutes to qualify, but we're going to give them basically an out lap and 2 flying laps to get a time on the board, so it makes it a little bit more intense. Then we go into a sprint race, a 15-minute sprint race, and then we have another qualifying session after race 1, which is the same format, an out lap and 2 flying laps, that sets us up for 2 more races, race 2 and race 3, which are both 25-minute races. But the addition is this: we're putting in a mandatory pit stop with a mandatory change of tyre compound as well. So if a driver starts on soft, they have to finish on either a medium and a hard, etc., etc., just to try and add a little bit of strategy into the race and mix things up a little bit. So looking forward to that. October 9th is first round. We've got 4 rounds before we have a 2-week break, and then we finish off with another 4 rounds that end a couple of weeks before Christmas. So really looking forward to that, and I think there's a lot of drivers that are looking forward to signing up for it. And sign up will be next week. We'll have sign up ready. So yeah, there you go.
That's brilliant. I love that time of year as well, because we're getting to the end of the sort of real racing. We've got a couple of winter weekends and winter championships in the real world to do. So excited, Rich, because that'll keep us going into the winter up towards Christmas. So
yeah.
Good stuff, mate.
But back to the action in this championship, and we are, of course, at round 7, the penultimate round of the Cupra Leon Cup here at the Assen TT circuit. Of course, pretty historic track, actually. Arguably Netherlands' most historic, famous, of course, in the world of motorbike racing. 2.83 miles long with 18 corners to its name, although in a fast motor car, I don't think you're going to find too many of those really being considered corners. It's a clockwise circuit, so that front left tire is going to be under a bit of pressure, and you've got to watch out for a few blind corners here or there. And this is a track that is certainly about finesse. It's a very technical circuit. Look at that run through turns 1 through to turn 3, and then turn 11 through to turn 14, where you've got to absolutely nail the throttle in a front wheel drive car. You've got to make sure it's absolutely precise, otherwise you're going to bleed time on exit. In terms of overtaking opportunities, obviously you've got the run into the first corner, all the way through to the third, in fact, and then you've got the likes of turn 8 as well, might open up if you're feeling particularly brave, turn 11 and turn 18 as well. That's a quick look at the track, but for a more in-depth look, let's go on board with Eric Axelson.
we were talking, weren't we, about Eric Axelson's hot laps before we came to air this evening, and Eric's going to give us one of his extra special demonstrations here in Holland to take us around the circuit. So there's the car that's going to be your guide for this evening's hot lap as ever, and we start the run down to Harbocht, which it is turn 1.
Oh, it's brave of you. I'm not going for the corner names. I'd offend too many people.
Turn 1's about as far as we get, Reeve, to be perfectly honest. Going round now into turn 3 and 4. It's a double apex corner. Osebrüchen. And then round into turn 5. Couple of kinks through 6 and 7 before we come down into turn 8, which is one of the overtaking places that Reeve was mentioning. You can see here we've got a very, very long straight, and so round into turn 9, across the track, grab the outside, grab the apex on turn 10, now coming down towards, heading down towards 11 and 12. 2.831 miles, as you probably saw from the graphic that Reeve was talking about. It's 100 years old, this venue, next year. So it's actually even older than me, which is really saying something. And you do need finesse. Thankfully, you don't need finesse to commentate, so I'm okay on this one. But yeah, it's a circuit that really does challenge the drivers. And again, as Reeve said, actually before we came to air, you find a track guide. It's all about biking. Many of the corners named after bike riders, coming down in towards turn 80, which is the Het Timmerbocht, and that's as much Netherlands phlegm that you're going to get over the course of the day. That is Eric Axelson's lap. 1 minute 41.63. Adam Lyle quickest in the immediately preceding session with a 140.927. Neatly into this evening's qualifying. So are we going to see another Eric Axelson pole position? He's looking for pole number 5, having won for race 1 at Pascani. Same again at Barcelona. Did the same again at Donington Park, and then at Nurburgring and Lime Rock, beaten by Scott Bugner and Joel Lass respectively. But at Laguna Seca last week, Eric was back in P1. And so far, it's Adam Lyle who heads the table with Joel Lask in P2, and Thomas Potter, who qualifying-wise is getting to be pretty much a sort of ever-present up towards the sharp end of things in qualifying, and doing a great job. So I'm going to ask for some money to go on the table here for Reeve. Who's your money on for pole?
Oh, that's a very good question there. I was just about to say, we saw in practice, it was looking very close indeed at the top end of the field. It looks to be a bit of a slow burn for Eric at the moment. He's running in, where is he at the moment? He's just jumped up. Oh no, he's still P13 at the moment, so I suspect hasn't quite got the laps in yet. We've only got 5 minutes to go, so he wants to hurry up and get a few fast runs in. There he goes, up into P5 on cue. Thank you, Eric, making me look somewhat professional. Yeah, I think at the moment it's going to be someone like, as we mentioned, Thomas Potter, Eric Axelson, Joel Lask are our contenders, I think, for this pole position. He's certainly spent some time preparing in this qualifying session. He's got a little bit less ballast than perhaps he's usually used to, so hopefully he's ready to go. I wasn't prepared, by the way, for the Dutch you threw in there on the hot lap. That was a...
Yeah, I apologise for that. It wasn't best. It's not the easiest of...
No, I was mainly able to compose myself. It's fine.
Gert Timmer is a well-known motorcyclist, incidentally. Oh, Andy Dorman. Dormant at the side of the track, which is a little bit of a pity. Let's hope that Andy can sort out his problems in the Eden garage machine.
We're on board at the moment with Eric. On this current lap, it could just be the timing system. He doesn't look to have improved too much. The first couple of sectors haven't been positive at the moment, although he is under pressure here. So I suspect a bit of pre-race racing really going on in this qualifying session, which is not ideal. You've got 2.8 miles of circuit, so it's quite easy to find a bit of space to occupy out on circuit. However, downside of long track in qualifying is you don't have many opportunities to get a fast lap in.
No, that's absolutely right. Probably would have expected them to find their own space on track with Eric in P5 at the moment. No, he's showing P2 on my timing screen, so let me just refresh this. Let's go through.
He crosses the line
That's
and
better.
does go P3, so I think that is more realistic showing at the moment. An improvement towards the end there. Sector 4, of course, a 4-sector circuit, not something we see every day. It's a 41.3 as he crossed the line. And then as we watch Chris Blakey cross the line there, I'll say that again. He does improve this time around. In practice, we were seeing 40.9. That was the quickest times we were seeing in practice. So I suspect there's still a few tenths to be found just yet, although only a couple laps to go with 2 minutes left on the time.
Horror of horrors, I actually did some prep and had a look back at the last event that VRRC did here at Assen. Wrote it all out, or wrote some notes out, and can I find them? Nah. I think the dog's eating my homework. We've got a dog in with us today, a little sausage rescue dog coming to stay with us for a couple of days. I'm sure it's eating it. But anyway, I don't think it was any of the current drivers that won. So Joel Lask was up there, but I don't think he took a win. He's P2. I tell you what, looking good at the moment with Adam Lyle still on that provisional pole from Joel Lask, Eric Axelson, Thomas Potter, Craig Curtis fifth, and to be fair, whoever's at the front, we're in for a great race, to be honest.
Absolutely. Adam Lyle actually in the pits at the moment, so he's decided that's all he needs to do in this qualifying session. It's going to be down to the likes of Joel, Eric, or Thomas, who are on board with that at the moment, to push on to try and get that front spot on the grid.
It is. Will we get Eric any further up is the question. They're all still on track. Thomas Potter setting oranges and greens at the moment. So Thomas trying to work his way further up towards the top. We did mention those of you who might have become regular viewers that we might have had a couple of new drivers coming in. Not managed to get them sorted out. So guys, hopefully we will see you maybe next week, but try and get your bits and bobs in nice and early so that we can get you into the racing in good time. That would be super to come along.
Missed their flights from Laguna. Yeah, missed their flights from Laguna.
I see what you mean. Yes, yes, very, very possibly. Yeah.
Still on board at the moment with Eric running in P3 at the moment. Again, it's not looking blistering. Usually we do see around this moment in qualifying a bit of a flying lap from Eric. So far, not quite yet, although I say that. Personal best through Sector 2.
He has, isn't he? So Eric having a little flying moment there. Let's see whether he can get a little bit further up. He won't be worried because he's always got race pace, has Eric Axelson. But at the moment, he's lined up for me to have the natter. A reminder, Eric on 30 kg of ballast. I don't have Adam Lyle's ballast to hand. Not in the top 10, so I only wrote down the top 10 ones. I think Rich was trying to tell me then.
I've certainly got
0 ballast.
Certainly got Joel Lask to hand it a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, Eric improving at the moment. It's looking good. 2/10 the delta as it stands. We go head onto the start-finish straight. He crosses the line. He goes into second position there. Eric, at the last moment, pulls a bit of a blinder, is only 1/100th of a second away from pole.
Wow. Eric Axelson always working hard and makes it up into P2. Joel Lask down to third. Needless to say, that was after I'd written the times down as we were getting down to a minute. So the pen of doom did its job there for Joel Lask. But Joel could still go. Here's Scott Bugner. Great to have Scott back with us. And remember, second in the championship, Scott Bugner. 27 kgs on his car as well, so he's got work to do. Okay, so everybody has completed. Adam Lyle from Eric Axelson and Joel Lask in third. We'll talk to our top 3 after this break. Thanks to AGON Pro, and our qualifying interviews get underway with the man who just got picked for second position. He winds up third. Joel last, loads of ballast, Joel, but third position, as always, in exalted company, isn't it? How was qualifying for you?
Yeah, it was all right. To be fair, I messed up my my last flying run. I was about a 10th up, so that would have put me right in the firing line for P1. Like I said, the ballast really kills you around here.
Yeah.
It's a real struggle, but yeah, to be honest, race pace is good. I think we're in for a fight, and I think it's time to send Eric into the first corner.
I was going to say we look forward to that. We don't, because obviously we want to try and be fair and see what happens. What specifically, was there a particular point on the track that you messed up, or just a bit of track that caught you out? What happened?
It was just the double right-hander before the final straight. I came in there a bit too hot. Normally
Right.
I cut it a bit finer, and dropped a 10th and a half through there, so I was up, which is a little bit frustrating. But yeah, fair play to Eric for pipping on time, and fair play to Adam for setting that time as well. Because yeah, it's not easy around this track to hook the lap up without invalidating. So yeah, we'll see what we can do.
That's pretty good. Last week, I've got to say, absolutely stellar performance with, second and first. And, some people say, oh, gaps open up or whatever else, but it ain't easy to do a second place and a first place in the reverse grid following. So it was a, mighty good drive, I think, from where I was watching.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think the stars aligned on that one. I really like this track though. We're quick round here, and based off the BMs, we had a great battle. So looking forward to battling with Eric and Adam on this one and see what happens.
Probably a bit premature at the moment. Are you going to be doing the next series with us, by the way?
Potentially, I'm not sure yet. Just need to see what I'm doing, and yeah, we'll see. But, yeah, looking forward to this race for now, and then we'll focus on next season afterwards.
Yeah, that's fair comment. I'm just trying to fish and see whether anyone else is interested. It'd be great to have you along for it, mate. And well done, P3. Look forward to the race. Good luck for the race, Joel. We'll probably speak to you again a little bit later on. Well done.
Nice one. Cheers.
And we move on to our man in P2, Eric Axelson, a bit of a regular of the post-qualifying interviews. Eric, P2 in the end, after what seemed to be not smooth sailing in qualifying. How was it out there for you?
No, it wasn't. I mean, it took a while for me to finally do a decent lap. This is a brand new track for me, so yeah, I've done as lot of practice as I can for this one, because it's a quite tricky track to hook up a perfect lap.
Certainly is. It's very technical indeed. Have you been able to get enough practice in though in preparation for this weekend? Gonna call it.
Yeah, I think 100 laps or something in practice. So I guess that's practice. That's on practice, So yeah, hopefully it will pay off.
Yeah, are you feeling a bit more confident for the race, perhaps, over qualifying? I mean, you've still done very well in qualifying on the front row of the grid, of course.
Yeah, I mean, the races, there's a lot else to think about than just pure speed. So I think I have a good chance in the race.
You're certainly always in the mix there, and I like the fighting talk from Joel behind as well. You're going to be ready for that charge heading into the first corner.
I didn't hear him. What did he say?
Yeah, he said something about maybe taking you out or something along those lines.
Oh well, yeah, he can try. Send it gold.
I like the bravery there. So, what are your aims for this race? And you got in for that win, or is it just maybe trying to get a bit more of a feel for the track in preparation for the next race?
I mean, if you start on first row, I think you always have to try to win. That's my goal.
Perfect stuff. And how's the car feeling out there? I know Joel was mentioning that he seems like the track's very ballast sensitive almost. You're running 30 kilos yourself, so still plenty of weight on board the car. What's it feeling like for you out there?
Well, to be honest, I think the car feels great. I mean, obviously, you get slowed down by the ballast, but it's not a huge a huge problem. I think with how the car handles and everything. I still think it handles great. So that's the most important thing, I guess.
Certainly does. I must admit, I haven't actually got some time behind the wheel of this generation Cupra Leon. I've only done a little bit in the previous generation car, but even that drove like a fantastic race car. So I imagine this is even better. Thank you very much for your time, Eric. We'll let you get ready for the race. Eric starting P2 on the grid there. And now time for a chat with our man on pole position.
Yeah, congratulations, Adam Lyle. I said that I couldn't find my homework, but something I prepared earlier on a couple of weeks ago tells me that, Adam, you were a BMW winner here on the Assen layout. So a track that you enjoy?
Yeah, it is, definitely. But it's a bit harder in these cars.
Walk us through your lap. You seem to bang that one in straight away.
No. I think that was my last flying lap. That one.
Was it? Okay.
One, but
you were top. You were top for a good work for the whole thing, pretty much.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a little bit slower than what Eric's time was, but I'm glad that I stuck in the 0 at the end.
That's really cool. What was the story last week? Because obviously it's your first pole of the season, which is great. Great to have another pole sitter. And I've got you down as 20th last week. So was there an issue in race 1 last week?
Yeah, my PC crashed during qualifying, so I started dead last, and then I just didn't load the setup race 1, so the car was all over the place, and I ended up just DNFing.
It's a bit of a pain, but it's nice to have you back with a bang this week. Favourite part of the layout for you, or if you can recall? We won't ask for the Dutch pronunciation. You can go for turn numbers or descriptions of sections.
The layout, it'll be the finishing line if I stay where I am. I hope.
Yeah, I guess that's fair comment. So much to do from changing from qualifying setup to race. Do you have to sort of fiddle around much, or everything good?
Setup, just add more fuel. That's all I'm going for. It seems to be quite solid.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see how it goes. Obviously we've got a big ballast difference as well from me to them behind.
Yeah. That's quite good. But if you obviously a good weekend or good day here, we'll set things up for next week and pile a bit more on you if needs be.
Yeah.
So long run obviously down towards turn 1, which is can be a little bit of a sweeper as well. I don't think I've asked you the question. How easy do you find these things to get off the line?
Not very well. I seem to be struggling with the starts on them, so I hope Joel's ready to go around me.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to have a little bit of the race. I mean, the other tracks you qualified well on, obviously, like the first one, Pascani, were 4th, Donington 3rd, so first one on the front row. So yeah, decent start to the day anyway. And actually, I see time's going on, so I'll say congratulations again, Adam. Good to see you on pole. Well done, mate. And all being well, we'll catch up with you on one, if not both, of the race podiums.
Fingers crossed.
Indeed. Have a good one, mate.
Thanks.
There takes pole position. Quick look over the positions that they line up for race number 1. Adam Lyle on pole position. Eric Axelson in 2nd. Joel Lasker, we heard from, lines up 3rd. 4th on the grid, just missing out on an interview, so he's probably thinking, thank goodness I didn't have to speak to Richard, is Thomas Potter. Actually, he probably would like to speak to me if it meant that he got a podium. So he's 4th. 5th is Scott Bugner. 6th, Craig Curtis. 7th, Chris Blakey. 8th, Andy Dorman. Top 10 rounded off by Andy Carroll and Josh Martin. The evergreen Josh Martin lining up there. So here is our grid. 30 seconds prior to the start of the race. Are we going to get another new race winner in this series for our penultimate? Hard to believe we've only got one more round after today remaining. Lighting sequence about to get underway, and the anti-penultimate race of the season it's the pre-antepenultimate race, isn't it? Is underway, and Adam Lyle doesn't get away too badly. Eric Axelsen trying to take the battle to him, looking up the inside, but it is Adam Lyle that gets away in the lead, comes over for the sweep around turn 1. There's a challenge on Joel Lask having a look at the outside of Eric Axelsen. Possibility of a little bit of track limits. Excusable, of course, on turn 1, lap 1, but it's Axelsen second. Joel Lask is next up from Scott Bugner, who's come up from 5th into 4th place. Thomas Potter down to 6th behind Craig Curtis.
Yeah, plenty of change in the midfield there. Eric looking a little bit under threat on this lap, it must be said. I thought heading into turn 1, he'd mucked up the launch, seemed to recover it well by taking the inside line. Built a bit of a gap, but is once again finding himself under pressure from Joel Lask here. Joel Lask, of course, heading into this race weekend with plenty of confidence following Laguna Seca. It seems to be building more and more experience in this car. I'm sure he'll be thinking of what a shame that we're swapping to a completely different format in the not too distant future. Either way, battle still continues on. Eric leading at the moment. Don't forget, not too far in the distance, it's Scott Bugner, Craig Curtis looking to get a spot on the podium as well. It must be said though, Andy Carroll leading this race. Sorry, Adam Lyle leading this race at the moment. Despite all the battling, they're able to keep up with our race leader.
They are early doors though, Reeve. So we'll see whether he can just make the gap over the course of the lap. Of course, second and third, whether they will manage to work with each other to keep up with the race leader is another thing. I suspect no, that's not the case. Okay, we're already having a look at some moves here, a nice wide line through that final turn, and it's to go across the line. It's Lyle from Axelsen. Last Scott Bugner still is in 4th. Well, he's dropped back to 5th position now, so contact. There is a little bit of contact there. This is all going to help the leader, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, he's absolutely running away with it at this point in time, but a second is a comfortable margin. Eric dropped down to P3 there. There's a little bit of trading of paint heading through the first couple of corners. And we also saw, as we headed towards the end of the previous lap, one of those pinch points on track that I mentioned earlier on when we were looking at the track diagram, running through 18 through to 21, those corner numbers there. It forces the whole field to narrow, and it kind of concertinas them almost, to use a quote from another commentator. And it is certainly going to be action-packed, I suspect, at certain points in this race. As we see, that is Brad Smith going for a move there up into P8. Adam Lyle, meanwhile, is that Craig? No, it's Craig Curtis changing position, actually. Craig Curtis has an off, potentially, or was that just a track timing glitch?
You didn't see that. I think it was probably a little glitch, wasn't it? Because it's Adam Lyle still out front from Joel Lask. Joel, from his interview, seemed to intimate that, yeah, little mistake that he made, but he did have the car beneath him to try. He reckoned he could have got pole position. So up into P2 now is great for him to be able to see whether he can close in on Adam Lyle. But we're having a look at Brad Smith up ahead of Andy Carroll and Josh Martin in the mix there as well. Josh, who completed the top 10 in qualifying, has made up a couple of positions already over the opening laps. So Josh looking to climb his way through. Remember, top 12 reverse for this one. We won't go into who's there at the moment because we are barely 5 minutes into this race, as Josh Martin has a look at Brad Smith there, just going down into turn 1. Can you remember the Dutch pronunciation for turn 1?
I'm, again, not going to attempt it lest I offend all the whole Dutch nationality and everyone watching this stream. But I was just wanting to comment then on this track. It's not quite the billiard table that you would expect, particularly through Sector 3, Sector 4. There's plenty of undulations in the circuit, and we're seeing the cars getting quite energetic almost as we head through that part of the lap. Let's not forget these cars can be occasionally prone to the weight balance shifting around and causing some sketchy driving, shall we say. So I think it's going to be an interesting race as the tyres start to drop off later on. It's certainly an interesting race at the moment for Scott Bugner, who's got a Thomas Potter wanting to make up for a slightly slow start as he pushes his way back upfield. It's certainly an interesting race for Scott here. Scott and Thomas, both very accomplished drivers in this series so far. Eric not too far ahead of them. It's certainly all to play for at the moment.
It is. Scott's made a bit of progress. So if he can work with Thomas, I don't suppose drivers do tend to work with each other unless they're teammates. They might be able to close down on Eric Axelsen. Eric, remember, with a decent points lead over Scott Bugner. So in terms of one and two in the championship, Eric and Scott with around about, I think it was 11 points between them. Joel a little bit further back in third place. They're all kind of doing what they need to do at the moment. Joel has doing what he needs to do, finishing ahead or racing ahead at the moment of Eric Axelsen and Scott Bugner. And Scott in turn needs to try and close up and get on board with them. But we've heard before, very often the key to the championships could be the reverse grid race when some points come up, as we drop down and see Johnny Ogden up ahead of Olivia Krzyzewska. So Catherine Potter, when I look for Olivia, usually Catherine's in the vicinity, isn't she? And I think she's a couple of cars ahead, Catherine Potter, at the moment, actually ahead of Johnny Ogden in 14th place. Or we lost Catherine now. Let's drop down the order, Catherine, unfortunately.
Yeah, commentator's curse there, unfortunately, Richard.
Sorry, Catherine. Sorry, Catherine.
We've managed to avoid it most of this season, I think. We've done quite well. But occasionally it does crop up.
It does, unfortunately. Catherine down to 19th, and she will fight back. That's one of the characteristics we've seen of Catherine over the course of the season. Remember, joined as reserve or deputy for brother Teapot, Thomas Potter, in the opening event of the season on Pascani circuit. Thomas in 5th position still, ahead of, with ahead of him rather, Scott Bugner, that we're looking at. You just see going out of shot Eric Axelsen in 3rd place. But this is an interesting little battle developing here, and it is developing now. Thomas has closed up in the 38 car, closing down on Scott Bugner. Scott's still in to score some decent points here, and Thomas Potter busy chasing hard in 5th place. Adam Lyle still out front. Good gap, I've got to say, Reeve. 1.2, 1.3 seconds over Joel Lasp, who isn't really making the inroads at the minute. Best laps for them. Joel's got the better lap of the top two drivers, 141.35, and Adam Lyle, 141.4. So not a lot in it, but Joel on his best lap is quicker in race pace, having set pole, as Teapot now starts to have a look at Scott Bugner.
Yes, he does. The door left open slightly for Thomas there. He immediately stuck the nose in to try and see if the move could stick. It couldn't, unfortunately. The track just isn't laid out to the way that Thomas would have preferred this time round, as I think we have a bit of lag there. No, don't worry, no cars are teleporting. But yeah, as you say, Joel Lass, we're not quite making the inroads we would have expected, and the maths just doesn't add up, quite frankly, because we saw him overtake Eric, and then I was watching his mini sectors as we see some more elbows out driving between Thomas and Scott. Now Scott is going to go late on the brakes to the inside to defend the position. Can Thomas find a gap? He can't just yet. He's going to follow Scott through anyway. But yes, Joel was, after he overtook Eric, putting in some really strong laps. Purple sector 1, purple sector 3, and was starting to build up a nice gap. But Adam seems to have responded to that and responded to it well. He's keeping good control of this race out in front, and at the moment Joel hasn't got an answer. I think we'd have to wait until a later phase of the race where it's going to become a battle of who's looking after the tyres the best, who can run the car better on a low fuel load later on. So there's going to be a battle brewing there for the front end of the field, and there's still a battle ongoing for P4 at the moment.
Very definitely, always a changing complexion, potentially all the way down the field as we get towards the end of the race. And we've got a change of complexion here. Well, no, we haven't, because they're still battling hard. Thomas looks to the outside run down into Harbocht corner, turn 1. He's going to have a look now on the inside. The gap is there. Unfortunately, the momentum is not there. And Andy Carroll starting to close up as well, and tags the back end of Thomas Potter, who goes into full drift, but saves it and hangs on to the control of the car. Totally unmeant there by Andy Carroll, and he backed out of that. He could have gone past, but he realised that I think he was very slightly at fault there, and therefore backed out of it and allowed Thomas to continue. But even though he wasn't at fault, it has dropped Thomas Potter back from Scott Bugner, so it's extinguished the battle for the moment, unfortunately.
For the moment, but we saw just how strong Thomas's times were when he wasn't right on the heels of Scott Bugner there, so I suspect he will be able to close up that gap. It really wasn't a huge closing speed, that collision. It was just an unfortunate part of the track where the car's a bit unloaded on the back end, and the car stepped out. But a mega recovery there from Thomas, I must say. That would have been a full opposite locker there, and it is always a tricky task to catch a front-wheel drive car like this, and he was able to do so. We are seeing, though, Eric has closed up that gap to Joel Lask. The tide has turned in this battle. When we thought Eric was not going to say completely out of the question, but perhaps taking a bit of a back foot, is now very much in mix and fighting for this P2 now. The top three still only covered by a couple of seconds.
You know, just wondering whether Eric Axelson was not out of sorts coming into this event, but certainly not the performance that we're used to seeing him in qualifying. Thomas dropping back. Now, that has unsettled Thomas. It was a great recovery from him, and very sadly, dropping back now down behind Craig Curtis. But going back to Eric Axelson, yeah, P2 in qualifying, and here we are saying that wasn't the sort of sparkling Eric that we're used to seeing. But he did put that P2 in at the later stages, and maybe he's just kind of getting himself warmed up here and getting ready for a P2. Might be able to do what Joel did last time out, P2 in race 1, and then go for the win in the partial reverse for race 2. But either way, this is the sort of battle that you probably would have expected to be championship deciding type battle between these two, and indeed it could still be, because remember, Joel Lask is third in the standings. Eric Axelson, the chasing car here, the championship leader, looking to eke out a few more points by getting past into P2. But Adam Lyle driving superbly out front, controlling the race, owning the race at the moment. And that gap is actually out. Last time I looked, 1.3. It's actually out to 1.7 now, as these two start or continue to battle for second place.
Yes, they continue to battle for second place on the track, but I think the important battle at this stage of the championship for Eric is to try and build that gap to Scott Bugner behind. Scott, his nearest rival in terms of championship points, only 11 points separate those two drivers at the penultimate round, as we see Thomas Potter potentially looking at a move on at Craig Curtis. Yeah, Eric Axelson wants to try and build that gap because it's certainly not insurmountable at this stage. As you see, a good run.
Yeah, that was a good run, wasn't it? I was about to comment on that, Reeve. That was a lovely run, wasn't it? And it's paid dividends there for him to go past Craig Curtis. Got his nose in front. Craig cedes the position, or does he? They're still side by side. Thomas runs a little bit wide. Craig's got the inside. And coming up is Andy Carroll.
Yeah, Andy in the mix now as well. It's one of those parts of the track where if you absolutely nail your line, you get your throttle just right, you'll just be kind of sailed through on a wind of momentum almost, as we have, I think, unfortunately, some lag there causing Chris Blakey to be teleported, or he's had to dive back into the pits. Either way, shame to see him out of the running in this race as Eric continues to put the pressure on Joel Lask. These two starting to slow each other down now with this battling. Adam Lyle out front is able to build up that gap a little bit more. Eric goes for a move down the inside. He's halfway alongside. Can he make it stick, though? It's all going to come down to who has the better run towards the inside, and it is, once again, Joel Lask who wins out just about, though. This must be very close quarters indeed. I imagine these drivers are going to be rather out of breath when it comes to the post-race interviews.
Yeah, I think they will. You've just got to have such a great memory for where the track is going to go to make a move and then sort of think that it's going to stick, that the corners the future corners are going to fall exactly right for you if you make that move. But what a fascinating battle here between two great pedallers. So Joel Lask holds on to P2 at the moment. What's the gap now? Out to 2.3. Again, you can see just how battling causes you to drift. They work together. They might have a shout at catching up with Adam Lyle now as Eric makes the move down the inside, and this time it's going to stick. The 57 car finally makes it through. Joel Lask down to P3, but as Eric Axelson left this too late, we've got 11 minutes on the clock remaining for him to try and close down on the race leader. Thomas Potter still trying to get back in the mix as well in this three-way battle with Craig Curtis and Andy Carroll. Curtis going back around the outside here. It's a brave sweep for Craig Curtis. Can he hold on to it? Thomas Potter switches the track switches so that Thomas is on the outside for the next corner and Craig Curtis back in front of this three-way gaggle. Carroll, Curtis and Potter all together. Josh Martin ahead of them. Haven't spoken too much about Josh. He's in 5th position. Remember, qualified in 10th, so really good, solid progress from the driver of the 89 car, the Dean Martin car. Running really well. This is what Josh does so well. He's got a big gap to try and close down on Scott Bugner, but great progress from Josh Martin here. If he replicates that in the reverse grid race, we could be looking at a race 2 winner there.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, as you say, is no stranger to putting in these rather lonely and quiet races, but sometimes that's what you need. If you've had a quiet race, it usually means you've had an incident-free race. Certainly not an incident-free race for Eric and Joel Lask, though, as they have a coming together. Eric is able to get back on track, but in not a particularly traditional manner, one would say, as we head through the final corner once again. These two are still side by side, making contact as we head on to the start-finish straight. We nearly take a joker lap and head on to the dirt, but we are able to carry on. Heading into turn 1, we saw these two acknowledging each other, shall we say. They acknowledge each other again, this time front to rear, as we head through to turn 2 and turn 3. Eric still out in front for the time being. I think any charge at the race lead has to be sort of forgotten about at this point, because this fight is only for this second place position.
It is very much. We're not seeing anything of Adam Lyle, who's down the road. Joel Lask, well, this is kind of what he said he was going to do. I'm definitely not going to write the results down in my ready reckoner until the Monday night's briefing is out of the way after this, because it's been a tad physical, shall we say. But having said that, still entertaining. This is what Joel Lask said that he was going to do, get involved and trying to... Go on.
I feel quite bad because I told Eric he was going to do that as well. And now I feel like I've brought this upon us, really.
I think they were going to do it anyway. So Eric Axelson's still bit, but cannot get away, and the gap's over 3 seconds now to or from Adam Lyle out front. Adam looking to replicate his BMW win here at Assen. Obviously, as you said, a completely different kettle of fish here in the front-wheel drive car. But either way, you've got to say that Adam Lyle, pole position, previous race winner here, probably won several. I haven't managed to look back too far. As Joel Lask again goes for it now, goes to the outside run here. And this is the Fiat Timmer box, comes out of there, the final turn across the line. Scott Bugner's closing up now as well, and this is inevitable given this squabble over second place, Reeve, isn't it? And again, the dynamic will change, and Scott Bugner will rather fancy, I think, getting himself back up onto the podium. He missed out last week, but last time he raced, he was on the podium, second position, race 1 at Lime Rock. So no stranger to being there, and he'll be hungry for it.
Yes, absolutely. We saw particularly not immediately, not in the first couple of rounds of the season, but particularly earlier on in the season, we've seen some great flashes of pace from Scott Bugner. So a weekend like this, he could really benefit from, as I say, has been building up in this season. So another couple of podiums, potentially win. Who knows what's going to happen in the reverse grid race? Would, I am sure, work wonders for him as these two continue to enjoy their battle, shall we say. We're on board with Thomas Potter once again, just behind Craig Curtis. These two, no strangers, are battling out on track, of course. They've certainly got plenty of experience fighting against each other. Let's see what they can do in the final few minutes of this race.
Yeah, we haven't got the time left. If we're on the screen, I can't see it on mine. I've got it on the timing screen. 6 minutes 35 to go. So Adam Lyle now some 5 seconds clear, and the Craig Curtis Thomas Potter battle continues. Thomas again here. He'll be disappointed to be down from 4th place in qualifying, but if he stays in 8th, it's handed territory for reverse grid racing. But at the moment, I think I could be forgiven for having a look. We've got Andy Dorman on provisional pole from race 2, with Paul Laramie in 11th. He would be alongside. Then Nathan and Brad Smith on road 2. So there's never an easy reverse grid race in these VRRC events, as Eric and Joel continue their battle for P2. I'm thinking we might want to try and get a conversation with the pair of them together and get their thoughts after this race. That could be interesting.
It certainly will. Still, the crash alert system we have on the timing system has just been completely lit up for at least half of this race, just full of 1 mile an hour collisions, half mile an hour collisions, as these two make the guys back at the body shop very busy indeed.
Rich Hayden didn't want a quiet Monday night, did he, next week?
He wouldn't know what to do with himself if he didn't have drivers complaining at him.
he'd be devising a new race format, wouldn't he, which he's already done. So another one. Joel Last really having a good go. As I said at the start of the year, and this could still be the decider for the championship because we take into account drop scores and everything else. But I wonder if the complexion of this battle would have changed had Joel been with us all the way through. Obviously, we had Aaron Laskin for Donington Park, who scored some decent points, 13th and 10th. And Joel now again feeding up the inside. And was there a little bit of a tag on the back end of Eric Axelson there as they came out of that final turn? Going into the final few turns. Eric across the green stuff. These guys are playing now, surely.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of momentum, has Eric. So Joel and Scott now, instead enjoying a battle. Joel doesn't know who to battle. As Scott now all of a sudden has a chance at the inside. He has to back out of it, though. Eric somehow gains momentum to bring it through to the first corner. Still running in at P2, it seems. Yes, still in P2 for the time being. Joel Last still in P3, Scott Bugner P4, but it's changing so much. I hardly know what to keep track with anymore.
Eric gets a bit of a breather now. Scott Bugner's in the mix as well. So, again, things change around. We've got 3 minutes 53 on the clock. Adam Lyle from Lights Out, the race leader. And it's been a very, very confident drive so far from Adam, with Eric Axelson now looking a little bit more settled with 3 minutes on the clock over Joel Lask, who is, I think he's got Scott Bugner sorted in his head now, and Scott sort of not necessarily dropping away, but there's enough of a gap here for Joel Lask to have another go at Eric Axelson before the checkered flag. So keep your eyes on the chasing car. Certainly Scott Bugner should not be written off at the moment. Josh Martin is still a little bit of a distant fifth place, but scoring good points. But I think second is going to hot up again as we head into the last 3 minutes.
It certainly will. It's good to see drivers up having a proper go on a track which I don't think they felt particularly comfortable heading into. You know, when you hear the likes of Eric Axelson saying, this is a track that really punishes you, this is a track that I don't have any prior experience with. You know, usually, even if they haven't had much practice heading into a race weekend, somewhere like Laguna, Seca, they've had years of experience, even in the sim, playing on another game, for example, you know, years back. So heading into a track like this, where I think a lot of the drivers outside of the VRRC wouldn't have really touched at all. It's been very interesting to see these drivers get to grips with this track.
It has been, yeah. It's been a joy to watch so far. The reverse grid one wonders whether there'll be some carnage or otherwise off the start of it. There is Andy Carroll down behind Brad Smith. You see Brad Smith a bit further up. Andy Carroll in 9th place, so potentially outside of row 2 for the reverse grid race. You'll have Nathan Smith at the moment alongside him, as Joel Lask hasn't quite caught Eric Axelson the way I thought he would a minute or so ago.
No, it's always been a question of will he, won't he, really, in this race. It's been so close and so elbows out at some points. I suspect they've absolutely knackered their tyres at this point. Of course, there'll be a little bit of damage on the cars as well. So at this point, it's going to be a question of, yes, trying to battle, but also trying to bring the car home as well. They're going to be very busy in the cockpits there.
They are. Now he is closing up, having said that. So Eric might have a look in the virtual mirrors and see another assault. And that's exactly what it will probably be as we get to a minute to go. Adam Lyle still out front and leading this one with a super drive, and he'll be starting to think about the work he's got to do in race 2. But Joel Lask beginning to close up onto the grid lines here at Assen TT. Joel Lask comes out of the slipstream, goes to the outside line, draws level with Eric Axelson as they go along the main straight down in towards turn 1, potentially for the last time. They're still side by side. Lask trying to brave it out. He's got the outside run to try and hold on. Eric Axelson moves across, grabs the line that he wants. Not overly forceful necessarily, but good defensive driving from Axelson. Here's the view looking back. Lask all over the back of him. This could bring Scott Bugner into play for the closing stages as well. As Lask looks up the inside again. No, but remember the twists and turns of this. Inside for one corner will mean the outside for the next. So it's still Lyle out front. We're on board with Eric Axelson. Joel Lask all over the back of him and putting the pressure on in this final lap.
Yep, they'll be wanting this race to be just 5 minutes longer. Down the inside there, Joel Lask. My hat goes off to you, sir. What a move. Who could have seen that coming? Eric is going to fight back for it, though. It's still Joel out in front for the time being. Eric and Scott now make contact, because do not forget, Scott is still in the mix here as we head through to the final part of this race. It's Joel Lask in P2. Scott having a brave look around the outside there. Eric, though, is very much focused on trying to get that position back. I imagine he was taking it back just as much as I was by that overtake.
Yeah, that was a lovely, I don't like using the word, but it was a great send, wasn't it, by Joel Lask to go up into P2. It'd been very physical. That particular move I thought was nice. Clear and clean, and clear and clean has been Adam Lyle in this race, who comes into the closing stages of the lap and is another winner in the VRRC Cupra Cup. So congratulations to Adam Lyle. Here comes the battle for P2 and P3. It was very nearly side by side for third, but Joel Lask takes second place. Eric Axelson third. Scott Bugner in fourth place. So second, third and fourth, very, very close in the end. Fifth position, a gain of 5 positions from his start, was Josh Martin from Craig Curtis. Thomas Potter in 7th place. So we'll start on the outside of row 3 for the reverse grid. Brad Smith was next from Andy Carroll. Then it was Nathan Smith, Paul Laramie, and beg your pardon, Andy Dorman in 12th. Will start on pole position, I think, for the reverse grid race. So Olivia Krzyzewska in 13th, just missing out on that pole. And then it was Alex Walker in 14th and Catherine Potter in 15th position. Time for a little ad break, time for us to have a breather, gather everyone together. We'll have the podium interviews for you in a couple of minutes.
And a thank you to Evnia for the support. What a race that was. I'm very much looking forward to chatting to some of our drivers after all of the action we've just enjoyed for race 1. From that race then. And up first, it is in fact Eric Axelson. We spoke earlier, Eric. Congratulations on a podium. That was certainly not an easy one, was it?
That was a tough one. It was. But it was, yeah, that was a really good race, to be fair. I had, the first laps, it took a while for me to find the rhythm. But, you know, once I got into it, I still felt I had a pretty good pace.
You certainly did, but so did your rivals near you as well. We were quite fixated on that what felt like race-long battle almost with Joel Lask there. Was it as fun to take part in it as it was to watch?
I will say after I watched the stream, but I mean, yeah, it was tough. Maybe too tough from time to time, but it's also touring cars, so yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed it. There's also a championship to think about, so you know, I don't want to end up in the in a barrier somewhere.
Yeah, as you say, it's touring cars, so you still got 4 wheels attached at the end of the race. I think you're doing quite well, to be honest. So you were saying as you headed in, well, post-qualifying, as we headed into the racing, you know, it was a track that you didn't have the most experience with. It's quite unforgiving. Do you feel like you got to grips with it a little bit more in race conditions before we head into the reverse grid race?
Yeah, I think I did. Having so many laps on row, you know, you kind of build up a rhythm that that I don't do in practice. Maybe I should do some longer stints in practice. Usually there's just like 3-4 laps a time. So yeah, I think I do.
Well, that'll be certainly confidence-inspiring heading into the reverse grid race. A bit more knowledge. And speaking of, something I didn't know too much about heading into this race, because like yourselves, it's not a track I'm particularly familiar with, I must admit. So in terms of tyre wear, what are we looking at really as it comes towards the end of the races?
Well, to be fair, the car just it still handles fine. I think you just can feel it, you know, mainly like the time's dropping off. But I think the you know, it still handles great. At least on this track, it was a little hard at Lime Rock Park, but it's fine, honestly, at this track.
Well, that's good to hear. That should be, as I say, confidence-inspiring for this reverse grid race coming up. And what are your expectations for this race? Obviously, you'll be pretty far down in the order with our partial reverse grid. What are your hopes?
Well, it's a hard track to overtake on, but usually in the reverse grid races, I aim for top 5. So I think that will be my goal.
Oh, good to hear, Eric. Congratulations for another podium here in race 1. We wish you all the best for the reverse grid race coming up in a few moments' time.
Thank you, Reeve.
Well done, Eric. Let's go to another well done to Joel Last. Joel, super race, very entertaining race for us to watch. And I'll ask the same question Reeve asked Eric. What's it like being stuck in like that?
That was interesting. No, it was a really good race. I really enjoyed it. The ballast definitely didn't help. I was really struggling down the straights. I could gain the time through the corners, but down the straight, I was left like a sitting duck. So had to be a little bit creative with some of the moves. And to be fair to Eric, we had a cracking battle. So yeah, really enjoyed that.
Oh, it was super. And talk us through the move, because that was one of the smoothest moves that I've seen. It was, I don't like the word send, but it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like early on in the race, I could see that I could brake a little bit earlier into T1, and dive up the inside, which worked quite well. The second time I tried it, Eric fended it off and, you know, parked it right on the apex, which was fair play to him. So it was sort of one of these things where you have to sort of plant the move somewhere he's not expecting it. So I gave him a couple laps of just push along behind him, and then when I see the gap, it was time to aim it, because Eric's incredibly quick. No one's going to dispute that. But there's got to be an opportunity where you try and make that move and get past them, and luckily it worked. So yeah, that was a cracking race.
Wasn't there ever going to be a mindset where you would work with Eric to not let Adam get away?
No, to be fair, I mean, Adam's on 0 ballast, right? So, you know, 44 kilos compared to 0 ballast. Yeah. I mean, the time difference is ridiculous. The laps that you can put in with 0 ballast, especially with tyre wear and stuff like that. You know, once Adam got away, that was it. It was sort of then just all eyes on P2 and fending down your position. So, yeah, I mean, Scott got in at the end there and had a little dice with us, which was quite fun. Kind of reminiscent of the BMWs, but yeah, it worked out the way it did, and yeah, happy with that fight.
It looked like for a lap or so that when Scott had caught you, you were getting defensive, and then I don't know, from where I was sitting, it kind of looked like you were, no, I'm okay. I think I can carry on attacking Eric and get away from Scott in fourth.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, me and Scott have raced for years on sims. Like even when we were kids, we were on, you know, Logitech G25 wheels and racing each other on different games and stuff like that. So me and Scott have got the sort of sixth sense for one another. We know what we're going to do. I see Scott wasn't pushing too hard, so for me that was You know, he definitely had more pace, but I think it was more of a case of, you know what, let's push together, let's try and crack down on Eric, because you know, Scott's P2 in the championship, Eric's P1. You know, Scott wants to go for it, so I suppose you got to put the trust in your competitors. But Scott's a fair racer a lot of the time. Also, we have our little coming togethers and stuff like that. But I can see when he wants to work together, and I can see when he wants to just send it. So yeah, it was a cracking battle.
That's good, and he gave Eric a good run to the flag as well, just picked by Eric for third position. So nice one, Joel. Great to catch up with you after the race as well as qualifying. Well done on P2. Good luck for the reverse grid race, and our winner interview is going to be via Reeve. So back to you, Reeve.
Awesome. Cheers, Richard.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you very much, Richard, and a congratulations is in order for Adam Lyle, our man, who sits on the top step of the podium. Congratulations, Adam. You must be pleased with that one. How did it feel out there?
It felt great just watching them two battling in my rear mirror. I could just see the gap getting bigger and bigger. I'm like, come on, keep battling, keep battling. And yeah, it was enough just to get them out of draft, and I think the ballast helped me just pull away.
It certainly did, but I think you probably built up a lot of that on the first lap. You seemed to get a decent getaway, and while you weren't able to obviously launch away, it was already kind of set in stone, perhaps, that you were feeling quite comfortable in the car, really? What was that a good race start for you?
Yeah, it wasn't the best. I mean, I think I ran out wide on the first corner, trying to hit it a bit too hot, but I didn't want anyone to send it on me first corner, so it's a risk I took, and it paid off.
Yeah, there was certainly plenty of talk about moves being sent in to the first corners. How did the car feel out there in the end? Obviously, you came away with a decent win, so you must be feeling quite confident in how it's driving.
The car, it felt great at the start and at the end, but the front left just died a little bit in the middle.
Okay.
And then seemed to come back to life, so I started getting a bit quicker then, and yeah, it felt fine other than that.
Sorry, I couldn't quite. Is this a track that you? I don't quite remember. Sorry, is this a track you've got much experience with? Did you say?
I've only done the BMWs around there, which I got a win
yes.
that. But yeah, it's quite nice to come back and win again. I'll hopefully he puts this in every championship.
Well, it would be nice to see you win here again, but it would be quite difficult given that the next race, which is coming up quite soon, so I will let you go, is the reverse grid race. What are your thoughts on that race?
I'm going to go for the same as Eric, top 5, I think. Hopefully.
Okay, well, we do wish you all the best. Congratulations once again, Adam. We'll let you get ready for that reverse grid race. And now that's our top 3 who looked like they had fun out there.
I think they did. It was certainly great to watch. And we've got the joy. That is the partially reversed grid race coming up. Quick reminder, 12th position in race number 1 went to Andy Dorman. He's already got form in having won the reverse grid race at Barcelona. Eric Axelson having won race 1. His placemen at Barcelona were Joel Lask and Scott Bugner. Who's to say they won't come through for a repeat of race 4 of this season coming right up. This is race 14 with just 2 more races to go at Virginia International next weekend. We are just over 10 seconds away from the start. The lighting sequence is on screen. So Andy Dorman and Paul Laramie on the front row of the grid. Row 2, Nathan Smith and Andy Carroll with Brad Smith in behind. Lights out here in the virtual Netherlands. Nathan Smith already being penalised, drive-through penalty for a jump start. It's Andy Dorman on the outside, right of shot, those coming under pressure as they go into turn 1 with Nathan Smith through on the inside at turn 1. Hold on to your hats, 2, 3 wide. Are they all going to survive the first couple of corners? Let's wait and see. Andy Dorman still in P2. So, yeah, decent enough start, Scott. They're all behaving themselves at the moment on the reverse grid start.
Absolutely. They're all heading down the track in pairs there as we have a big moment there. Well caught. That was Josh Martin by the looks of things, who nearly visited some of the Dutch scenery that we have surrounding the race track. He was able to carry on, though. He has now become a bit of a cork in the bottle almost. The entire mid-pack heading through the same corner. That's a big off there for Scott Bugner in the gravel. What a shame. His hopes in this race rather dashed, it must be said. He's come to a very unfortunate stop. He was looking great in race 1, had some momentum behind him, had a decent position for race 2, is instead going to be dropping down to plumb last. Anyway, we go on board with Andy Carroll running in P4 at the moment, one of the 2 orange cars in the top 5. We have 2 white and blue cars leading the race as well, 2 green and black cars are just behind those as well. Andy Carroll at the moment, P4, Brad Smith, P5, under pressure from Josh Martin, who's under pressure himself from Eric Axelson. A great start for Eric here, up into P7 already. This is some strong showing from Eric so far this weekend at Assen, a track he wasn't feeling particularly comfortable with.
No, for sure, but we get the joy of watching him pick his way through the field. He's got Joel Last right with him as well, so it's the Eric and Joel show maybe again here in race number 2, as Andy Dorman now shows as the leader, with Andy Carroll coming through in second position. Nathan Smith, as you can see from the graphic, has taken his drive through, but I've got to say, led that lap impeccably, as we see Brad Smith heading this little group of cars for 4th position. Josh Martin right behind him. Shame for that blip for Josh. Oh, and a sideways moment there for Brad Smith, and that opens up the door. Oh, a little tap in the back there. Big tap in the back, actually. Again, inadvertent, unavoidable from Josh Martin, who now is down to 8th place. Thomas Potter up into 7th. Brad Smith still showing in 6th place, but it's Andy Dorman from Andy Carroll, Paul Laramie, and Eric Axelson now in 4th place, with Joel Lask in 5th. Within 2 laps, they've got where they predicted that they would finish.
Yeah, this has been a little bit chaotic. We've I think overall over the season we've got away with some fairly tame reverse grid races, it must be said. But this one is so far shaping up to be not quite that. I hope that changes, although there's about 5% of my brain that doesn't. Most of me hopes that we have a bit more of a calm reverse grid race as we head into the next few laps. Eric Axelson, a great drive so far, up into P4, ahead of Joel Last. These two, as you say, have been enjoying a bit of a battle so far this race weekend. They're going to enjoy some more as we head further into this lap. Going to make for some great racing later on, I suspect.
Yeah, you know, the fact that Eric is sort of, even though he finished behind Joel, it was literally 1 place behind, so no massive dent in the championship points for Eric. So, and you heard him say in the interviews, he has the championship now very much in mind. And that's the typical mindset of the driver. Thomas Potter and Josh Martin going side by side here. Thomas on the inside on this run should consolidate the pace. Still got Brad Smith up ahead of them in the 69. Josh is going to come back though smoothly around the outside. Thomas Potter gets a better run out of the corner, consolidates that 7th position. The Teapot looking to try and carry on his good scoring, but Eric Axelson 4th from Paul Laramie. So how long is it going to be before those guys are challenging for the race lead? We've got Craig Curtis behind Josh Martin here. Craig with the attentions of Adam Lyle. So Adam made up a couple of positions on his start as well. Light on ballast, as we heard, but still keen to try and pick his way through and get a decent points haul if he can from this one.
Certainly is. It's been a decent race start for a few, and unfortunately for some others, it's not been ideal. I really do feel for Scott Bugner. I think he could have been one to watch in this race. We saw how racy he was getting in race 1 with the likes of Joel Lask. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. We're on board at the moment with Eric Axelson and the aforementioned Joel Lask as they close up on the top 3 here. In terms of their pace at the moment, they're in the mid-42, so actually about level with our top 3. Eric and Joel constantly trading purple sectors as they enter the 41, so have been proven completely wrong there as they start the next lap. The field actually still looking relatively close given our chaotic race start.
Yeah, that's the kiss of death, isn't it? For a
sorry.
brief there, I suspect it may well go pear-shaped. Yeah, I mean, dare I say that Eric and Josh, because they're not working together per se. And contact there on Paul Laramie as Eric goes through. Maybe there was a gap or half a gap there. So Eric Axelson up onto the podium. Still Andy Dorman just going out of shot with Andy Carroll now. Joel Lask, now we're up into podium territory. I was going to say, wasn't challenging Eric per se. He very definitely is now, though. Little nibble on the rear quarter. More than that, in actual fact. And Eric just gives it back at him. And Paul Laramie gets in the mix and says, thank you, guys. Carry on squabbling. And he goes back into third place. Again, they could or perhaps should avoid the squabbling here, because Andy Dorman and Andy Carroll could just clear away.
I'm not sure race one ever finished, to be honest.
Yeah.
Battling continue on. I'm not even missing the cheese jokes that you were supposed to make for this Dutch event that you promised us last week. I'm not even missing them. This is so action-packed, as we see Eric Axelsen down in P7 now. Josh Martin, Thomas Potter surrounding him. Thomas up into P6. It's been a bit of a quiet weekend, all things considered, for Thomas Potter, but he is slowly working his way up. Perhaps a reverse grid race could be the race he was looking for. As we see Joel Lask, the man battling Eric Axelsen for so long here at Assen, and now has a bit of a breather. But for how long, that is the question, because he's got Paul Laramie and Brad Smith hunting him down behind, and then just behind him Thomas and Eric as well. The mid-pack looking very spicy indeed in this race.
Joel Lask, he's been making comments, rightly, about the ballast that he's carrying, that 44k of ballast. Remember, that could go up to 50, so next weekend he could have a little bit more, which will make life even more difficult for him. But this is superlative stuff. Maybe it's firing him up, maybe it's like the red mist that you get, got the extra ballast, it increases the challenge, so therefore fires up the mindset for him to try and go even quicker. But you've got to say, with the ballast on, super performance coming through from 11th on the grid into third. Thomas Potter, we know, has got the pace around here. He was fourth in qualifying. That was a lovely move, wasn't it, to nip past Eric Axelsen. So he's just passed the championship leader there. What a move from the youngster.
Yeah, it's made it look easy, which is a no mean feat at a track like this, as we've heard likes of our championship leaders say. The overtaking opportunities, I think there are a few on this track, but do bear in mind they're primarily designed for bikes, and a Leon Cupra is quite a bit bigger than a bike. So they can be difficult to execute these overtaking moves. As speaking of ballast, only mentioning it then, all I could think of during our post-race interview was to see a nice move there from Thomas Potter up into P4. Thomas has got some brilliant momentum behind him at the moment. All I could think of was, let's play the Joel Lask ballast drinking game. Every time Joel Lask mentions the word ballast, you'll see if you can still commentate towards the end of the race.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had a drink while commentating. I don't know if I told you the story about Mondello, where I lost my voice, or I very nearly lost my voice, much to the delight of the spectators, I hasten to add. But Matt Feeney, who was the Irish commentator, I was with the Legends and the pickups and everything that went over, and because I was struggling, Matt went to the bar and got me a Guinness. It was the nicest commentary experience I've ever had, apart from working with you, of course, Reeve, commentating at Mondello and having a Guinness. So yeah, maybe we should instigate that.
The E36 Championship will be even more interesting as we see Thomas Potter, some brilliant momentum behind him, as we say. A 1:43.3 in that last lap. He was in the midst of traffic, though. 1:42 is best lap so far. That's not the outright fastest lap we've seen so far, but it is there or thereabouts with the top end of the field. We're on board at the moment with Andy Carroll. Andy Carroll putting the pressure on Andy Dorman quietly. While all of the action's been happening in the midfield, we've had this battle for the lead brewing at the top end of the field. So just in case one battle for the lead wasn't enough for you per race weekend, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another one here in race 2.
I love the choice of word brewing there. I'm beginning to think, and again, looking ahead to BMW, it's got a German rounds. Jägermeister would make a lovely sponsor, wouldn't it?
Well, BMWs usually end up making me drink, but that's for a different reason.
Yeah, super race here, though. Andy Dorman still out front. Are we going to see another win from Andy Dorman? Oh, Brad Smith all over the place there. Mistake from Brad, drops down behind Josh Martin. Thomas Potter up into P4. That's where he qualified, remember. It's been a good drive from Thomas Potter here. He was a little bit out of luck in race 1, to be fair, but it's really showing his colours here. Eric Axelsen is in 5th. Josh Martin right behind him. But look at the gap that Thomas Potter has pulled on the championship leader. For sure, Eric said he's thinking about the championship here. But what he won't want to do is get sucked into a battle with another. Well, he's got 4 cars behind him, so he won't want them passing him and eroding that championship lead.
He certainly won't. But if I'm trying to think of my Eric head on at the moment, what you've got to think is Scott Bugner, his current nearest rival in the championship. I'm sure that's updated since race 1, so my information is probably out of date. Is quite a few positions down, so he can perhaps afford to lose a position or 2. But as you say, he doesn't want to lose that momentum in this race. Again, momentum appears to be the word of the day here at Assen. But Eric is, while I'm sure we all know Eric, we all know his pace, we all know his ability to give us pretend fast laps, and for the hot lap clip when he's actually got a few spare tenths under his belt. Eric is a racer through and through. He'll be wanting to fight for that podium. He doesn't need to at this phase of the championship. It was nice to hear from him actually earlier on that he's thinking about the championship now, because we're getting towards the end of the racing. And while he's got a lead, it isn't a substantial lead. It's mathematically certainly not insurmountable. So I think he's heading into these races now thinking slightly differently.
Yeah, I'm actually worried about next week and having to work the maths out over the races. So that could be interesting. Not my strong point, mathematics. Went to the same school as Jamie Caroline, and the maths teachers were not the best there. I hasten to say, as that's Lee Pearcey disappearing off and Chris Blakey disappearing off into the gravel on the last turn. Sadly, we still ride on board with P6 Josh Martin. Eric Axelson in front, Josh trying to add to the 5th position that he got in the last race, so not scoring too badly here, and Eric Axelson really struggling to get up. Joel Lask still in 3rd, so it's the 2 Andys, Dorman and Carroll 1 and 2. Joel Lask in 3rd place, 4 seconds adrift, but super job again, given the ballast. Ooh, quick drink. Are we allowed to drink if we say ballast as well? We are, which Hayden says it's okay, so we'll see whether Joel mentions it on the podium. He's certainly on for a podium at the moment, but Eric and Josh having a good old battle here, good old scrap going on between those two. Nathan Smith, Brad Smith in behind. Sorry, mate.
We can change our driver of the day, DOTD championship, to our drinker of the day. Perhaps
we
as we head into the BMW. This is there's some thematic issues with race 2 here, I suspect. I think we should break away from what we've been potentially advocating for in this race. As we see Andy Carroll putting the pressure on at this moment, 11 minutes and a little bit on top to go.
Yeah, great stuff from these boys so far. The battle developing for the lead. Andy Carroll trying to close in. So Andy, just looking back at his results over the course, he's only had the 1 podium so far. That was race 1 at the Nurburgring, so it was fastest off the front. Certainly no disgrace in getting another podium and going a place better here in the reverse grid race. And remember, he's got another race winner in front of him, Andy Dorman. Andy having taken many wins with the club before, so both of these drivers a decent pedigree and could give us a good finish. But remember, if they end up squabbling, it could bring Joel Lask into the mix as well. And we've still got 10 minutes on the clock, and that gap is not insurmountable for 10 minutes if Joel gets his head down, even with the extra weight on board. And notice I didn't use the B word.
No, I was about to use the momentum word as well, but Joel's got some great form as we head into this phase of the season. We saw a really strong showing from him in the previous round at Laguna Seca, and so far, as it stands for now, he's looking very strong indeed. Again, as we're on board at the moment with Eric Axelson, has Thomas Potter up in front. This is a battle we've seen plenty of times, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Thomas versus Eric. They have battled each other out on track so many times, and we're going to enjoy another one. They seem to race each other very fairly indeed, but it always makes for great viewing as we see Eric trying to find a position to put the front nose of his Leon Cupra. He's going for the inside of the next corner. No, he's going to switch back and go for the outside, but well defended by Thomas there. Let's not forget Josh Martin is right behind it as well. We've got a bit of a train forming up as we head into the later part of the lap now. Dab of the brakes for Thomas there, going slightly wide perhaps. No, everyone makes it through. The tyres still have a bit of life left in them still as we head to the start-finish straight once again. And we've got a bit of a slipstream train forming.
We have, and here comes Eric, looks down the inside, gets his nose on the inside, run into turn 1. I think he's going to get the position here. Thomas knows that's the case, leaves the door wide open, and Josh Martin comes through as well. shame for Thomas, because he made some great passes to get past those guys. And I'm wondering whether he's just struggling with a little bit of tyre wear at the moment. We're under 10 minutes of the race remaining. Brad Smith, the next one to try and chase down Thomas Potter, but it was a good run, wasn't it? Up into fourth for Thomas Potter, drops back just a shade, and Josh Martin is now in fifth position again. So it's 2 fifths at the moment potentially for Josh Martin, who has been very consistent race-wise, and remember came through from 10th position on the grid in race number 1. I think it was 8th in this one. So consistent progress, good race pace from Josh Martin thus far, and he could still well depose. Just having a look at the message on screen. Could still depose Eric Axelsen here, because he's been all over Eric like the proverbial rash, and could still grab P4. I'd say a podium is probably out of the question at the moment with 8 minutes left on the clock.
Yep, so as you say, some really nice consistency from Josh. Hasn't been making headlines in these races, but has just been running very nicely indeed. His pace isn't blistering, but it's certainly by no means slow. He's just lapped comfortably and is looking strong. He's been rewarded for that at the moment, as well as we see his battle continuing on with Eric Axelsen as we head into the next lap. Now, Josh looking to put that pressure on, has a brief look down the inside heading into turn 1, is I think a little bit, doesn't have enough of a pace advantage to make anything stick so far. Of course, it's one thing to catch up, it's another thing to overtake. Josh caught up a fair while ago, but just hasn't had the pace advantage to overtake. It seems to be very difficult to seize on the opportunities here at the Assen race circuit. But they continue battling once again. I think Thomas, after having a few issues earlier on, could be brought back into the mix here as we go on board with Andy Carroll once again. This fight, which has been brewing for the race lead, hasn't really come to fruition, has it?
No, it's been bubbling away, but not quite come to the boil yet. Someone who is doing well, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Catherine Potter. Thomas will be wondering where his sister is, 10th position at the moment. So Catherine, remember, was I think the last of the finishers from race 1. Has made really good progress here, and is not too far away from Scott Bugler, who had his issues. Craig Curtis above them, but Catherine's ahead of Paul Laramie, Olivia Krasnowska, and Alex Walker. So good stuff from Catherine, and there she is having a good drive, and it'd be wonderful to see her back for the next season of racing as well, because I think there's a lot more to come from the other half of the Potter family.
Absolutely, as we have another look at this battle for the top end there, we see in the background as well Joel Lask very much in the mix here as well. He's certainly been a bit of a feature of this evening's racing, has Joel Lask, even with all of the extra lead in his car. Can't be slowing him down that much.
Yeah, the extra bulk does tend to hinder a driver, as we've heard, but super job from him. Absolutely brilliant as we watch Craig Curtis trying to close in on Brad Smith, who's had a few wild moments over the course of the race. Craig Curtis challenging for 7th place at the moment. Still Dorman and Carroll from Lask immediately behind. The twists and turns of this place, how the drivers remember it, I guess the 100 laps or so that Eric Axelsen was talking about in one of his interviews helps ingrain it in the memory. And if you look at the various servers that go on, as soon as they finished here, they'll be on to the next track, practicing for next week's event. As the battle here continues to crack on, Brad Smith still up front. Craig Curtis, though, gets level with him. He's on the outside for the next corner. Maybe go for a cutback, too far back for the Creative Work car to get through there. But again, draws level. Cracking race between these two.
Yep, as they trade paint once again, bashing wheels. These cars certainly are built well. It's one of the perks, I suppose, of sim racing, is you can afford to get away with a little bit more of that stuff than perhaps you could in the real world. Another perk, obviously, being, as you mentioned, the practice that these drivers will undertake. As Craig looks like he was getting poised to make another move. They are side by side. He's going to have the inside line for the next corner, although, as it often does at Assen, it changes back into Brad's favour once again. They are still side by side as we get ready to head back on to the start-finish straight. Of the right-hander next, so again, I'm not going to try pronouncing it I've tried to avoid that so far this stream. It will be a bit of a disaster. Craig does win out this time around, although I suspect this battle is going to continue on. We have another look at our race front runners. This time Andy Carroll dropping off a little bit from Andy Dorman, who seems to be enjoying the reverse grid races, it must be said, and is now potentially under threat from Joel Lask.
He is, yeah. Andy, of course, double winner. I forgot about the one that I missed. Can't remember why I missed a round. I was doing something else that particular night. I think it was the second event of the season. But Joel Lask here could be on for another P2, and certainly he will take no prisoners. He will potentially have extra speed into the corners, courtesy of the extra mass in the car. So is he going to be able to use that to good effect to pass Andy Carroll? Andy Dorman still out front, 3 minutes 24 on the clock. Lask could still do it. If there's a mistake from Andy Dorman, we could still see that third position mutate into second and then first, but Carroll's still there, holding on to second position at the moment and hanging on for potentially a best finish of this season. Remember, third position, race 1 at Nurburgring, had another third in race 2 at Lime Rock, but the third position at Nurburgring will keep us the best result, since that was following his qualifying at Nurburgring, which was P4 at Nurburgring. So he kind of earned that out front, but then had the third position at Lime Rock time before last week, Laguna Seca, weren't we, last week? But Lask closing him in, and still with 2.5 minutes, it could be a last lap manoeuvre from the man we ride in car with, Joel Lask here. Eric Axelsen still down behind him in fourth position. Thomas Potter is back ahead of Josh Martin now on the timing screen as well, by the way.
Some would say perhaps a Lask lap manoeuvre potentially incoming here. Sorry, that was awful. As you see, a bit of contact between those two now. Continuing on, though, luckily not too much momentum lost, although it must be said, those drivers, the likes of Eric Axelsen, Thomas Potter, we saw battling a little while ago, are by no means in the distance, are they? This has been quite a close quarters race, all things considered, as we have Joel Lask having a look up the inside there. Great shot of the rear end of the car. It's going to be Andy defending the inside for the next corner. Nothing Joel can do just yet.
Yeah, Joel's going to be thinking, like Eric was, about championship points as well. He's a little bit further behind Eric, but he also knows that if he risks contact, if he risks a penalty, he's risking championship points as well. Big contact might mean a DNF, and that would really throw him even further out of the championship standings as well. 1 minute 22 on the clock remaining. Andy Dorman still out front. This is the battle for P2 in race 14 of our 16 race series. And as you rightly said, Reeve, Eric Axelsen, Thomas Potter, all closing up. Josh Martin a little bit further back, but still in a consistent sixth position at the moment in this one. Thomas having a good fight back for fifth, but Dorman goes through. Joel Lask just seems to have taking a little bit of a breather at the minute. So the squabbling stops, and maybe this will help Andy Carroll and Joel to build a bit of momentum into what should be the final turn.
Yes, it may. It'll still be, even if it's P3, a remarkable weekend once again for Joel Lask. And here is Eric Axelsen. We started to wonder perhaps whether his climb back through the order was going to lose its kind of its pace, really. After early on he made so many positions and then got caught in that midfield action. He has come away still with a good result. Let's not forget, top 5 is what he was aiming for. Currently running P4. Joel Lask, we're on board with at the moment in P3, half a second down on Andy Carroll. And our leader out in front by a couple of seconds.
He is, Andy Dorman, looking very good for a third race win of the season. He's only going to be one behind Eric Axelsen. And these reverse grid, as we've heard, so key to championship points. And Andy Dorman, remember, is fourth in the championship behind Joel Lask. So this is great points for him. And Joel Lask gets the rush on here. Is he going to be able to have it? It's going to be a last-ditch attempt to try and get second position away from Andy Carroll. Andy Dorman still leads at the moment. Eric Axelsen and Thomas Potter trying to close in, but let's see whether Joel Lask can make that move. Here is the race leader, though, coming up towards the flag, Reeve.
He is. It's been relatively quiet for him out in front. He had a bit of pressure early on, but a great drive for Andy Dorman as he crosses the line to take the race of victory. Not too far behind him, we have a whole gaggle of cars getting ready to finish the race as well. Andy Carroll P2, Joel Ass P3, Eric Ackelson and Thomas Potter conclude their race mere hundredths apart as they come across the line to complete the top 5. Then it's Craig Curtis, Brad Smith, Scott Bugner are top 8. Catherine Potter, strong race alongside Olivia there for P9 and P10. Then we have Paul Laramie, P11. Alex Walker will be coming home at P12, a few seconds behind there. And then a bit of a battle for P13 ongoing here between Lee Piercy and Chris Blakey. Brings home our finishers for race 2. And what a race 2 it was.
Fantastic race. So we've got to think about driver of the day as well. So we're going to chew that one over and finalise the decision for that whilst we get the opportunity to take an advert. Let's learn a little bit more about AGON GP. So we are back live. Have we got any of our drivers on the podium in the studio with us? We haven't yet. Bear with us. They're just making their way down. Picture, if you will, the drivers making their way down victory lane in towards Steve Ryder on ITV. We don't have Steve. We can't afford him. I'm cheap, which is why I'm here. But we've got third position and my third interview of the day. Joel, I don't know what you've got to do to escape me, mate, but many congratulations on third place. Another fine race. Well done. Decent day for you, all things considered.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, like, we had the pace for P1. Andy Dorman and Andy Carroll definitely disappeared off at the start. Had a little bit of a battle with Eric. Dipped it in the gravel trying to chase Andy Carroll, and you know, the opportunity was there. I think a couple more laps, maybe it would have happened, but yeah, overall I'm happy with that.
That's good. Highlight of the race for you?
Oh, to be fair, I think just beating Eric. I think that's the biggest thing. You know, we've got to gain the points on him, right? And I see him chasing me down in the second race. But you know, we finished ahead, which was the main thing, which was the main goal for this race. So yeah, happy with that.
That's good. Still a very strong P3 in the championship, and 10 points behind Scott, which is not insurmountable, is it? Really, going into the final race weekend. Any thoughts on the layout we're using next week, Virginia International? Is that one you've done before?
It's not, to be fair, so I need to do a bit of practice. You know, Scott and Eric are incredibly quick. I mean, the chances of trying to beat those two are going to be slim to none, I think. Especially with the ballast that I'm carrying. I think we're going to carry another 44 kilos into next week, which is really going to be tough, to be completely honest. This track sort of negated it a little bit. But obviously into Virginia, that's going to be a tough gig, I think. So we'll see what happens, but I'm expecting to be off the pace quite a bit. But yeah, you never know.
I was raising the question during that one whether it fires you up. You know, knowing you've got, you know, essentially one hand tied behind your back, does it fire you up more?
I mean, it does. Like through the corners, I had the pace. That was the thing. I was able to catch through the corners, but then down the straights, I was left like a sitting duck.
Yeah.
You know, Eric's on 30 kilos. He's got the second highest amount of anyone. No one else is above 30 kilos, and I'm on 44. So, you know, it definitely hurts in terms of tyre wear and race pace. But you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. You know, the drive ranking and championship ranking have come in, so you got to make do with what you got. So you got to sort of play to your advantages, and you know, see where you're weak and try and push from there. But it is what it is. Do I think that, you know, potentially we're on for maybe P2 in the championship? Probably not. But I'll be happy with third based on where I was, you know, a couple of races ago.
And you had a round away as well, so you know you got half points. Aaron scored half points for you, didn't he? So again, a difficult thing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I had 2 weeks off. You know, Aaron raced. My brother raced one race for me. The second one I did a DNS, so I didn't race that one. So it's sort of one of those ones where you can't have a bad round moving forward. So, you know, I'm happy with the points that we've taken. Obviously, moved up the championship table, and you know, the fair play to Eric and Scott. They've been consistent all the way through. So we'll see what happens in the last round.
Well done, Joel. Great driving today, mate. I think top point scorer on the day as well, which is absolutely super. The handicap that you got. So well done. Congratulations. Look forward to seeing you next week. Let's go to Reeve, who's going to interview our second place driver.
Thank you very much, Richard, and a big congratulations to our man in P2, Andy Carroll. Congratulations, Andy. You must be pleased with a podium to add to your tally.
Yeah, quite pleased with that in the end. Managed to just about keep Joel behind me. Was trying to put some pressure on Andy at the front, and then kind of a couple laps we held each other up a bit, and that managed to let Joel, I think, close in for a couple of seconds quite quickly. So at that point, then it was more about looking in my mirrors and trying to not to make silly mistakes and try not to lose too much time to Joel. And then obviously once he was on the back of me, just, you know, try and hard as I can to keep him behind me. But yeah, really pleased with P2.
Yeah, absolutely. We enjoyed that charge for the race lead. It seemed to go on for a little while, not too much in terms of elbows out action, shall we say. No real kind of major contact, but was it still an enjoyable battle from your point of view?
Yeah, there were a couple of places where I was sort of closed up quite a bit on Andy, but just probably not quite the right places to be able to try and make a move. And then, of course, you're then trying to not to get any silly off tracks, because I had a few in the first race, ended up with a drive-through. Certainly didn't want to do that again, given where I was. So yeah, it's just try and keep it on the track, and then yeah, it's then about just trying to keep P2 rather than challenge for the lead.
I see. Is this a track that you've got much experience with?
Yes, we did it in the previous champ. I actually took pole here, previous champ, and was having some good races. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed the track. Qualifying was not good. I made a lot of silly mistakes in qualifying, so didn't really get a very good lap together. But we just managed to sneak into the top 10. But yeah, it's definitely a track. It's a fun track to drive, fun track to race on, and I seem to be reasonably quick here. Obviously not compared to Joel, but compared to all the others, I've got decent pace. So yeah, definitely a track I like.
Good to hear. So moving on from this track which you enjoy to thinking about our next round and our final round as well. Obviously, we're heading into the Virginia International Raceway as we come to the end of the championship, and you're certainly in the mix there in the championships. What are your feelings heading into that round?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. It's obviously very high speed, Virginia. Some very fast corners and that long back straight. So, it's going to be interesting to see how these cars do around here. I've given up trying to figure out whether, how they're going to handle on each track, because it never seems to align with what I'm thinking. But just do some testing, do some practice, see where it comes out. And yeah, looks like I'm kind of just looking at the championship. It's really, really, really close between myself, Brad, Craig. So yeah, it's going to be a fight for fifth, I think, in the last two races.
Yeah, it certainly will be. I'm just looking at the table now, and it is very close indeed. It shows that I think we've had quite an enjoyable season. How's it been from your point of view? Have you enjoyed our championship this year?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I do like front wheel drive. I've been surprised just how close it is. We've had so many winners, so many different pole sitters, and it's just been all the way down, sort of top 12, top 13. You just never know where you're going to be because the times have been so close. So yeah, it's been really enjoyable. Hard work, a lot of practice put in, but yeah, it's good to still be in a good battle going into the last round.
Well, I'll certainly be looking forward to watching that, and I wish you all the best for it as well. Congratulations
Thanks,
once
Dave.
again on a podium in race 2, Andy Carroll.
Yeah, good to see him up there, back on the podium for the first time since Nurburgring, and our winner, third win of the campaign. Well done, Andy Dorman.
Ah, thank you. That went well, didn't it?
That was good, wasn't it? Yeah, faultless race from you, I thought.
Yeah, it was just a bit like a Sunday drive. Everyone stayed behind me, which was quite nice.
There's pressure, though, isn't there? I've spoken to Reeve about this, when we've been commentating, and many of us would rather be the chaser rather than the person being hounded by everybody else. So how does that mindset sit with you?
Yeah, I've got that same mindset. At one point, I was just going to let Andy Carroll pass and just sit behind him for a few laps and make it a bit easier for myself.
But at the end of the day, lights to flag. A track that you've got a reasonable amount of experience of from previous series?
No, it's first time here, so I only...
Oh, was it? Wow.
Sunday, I think. It was the first time I drove it.
New favourite track now, then?
Yeah, it's going to be up there, I think.
That's good. So, does the prep again start straight away for the next round? Obviously, we've got Virginia International next week. So, are you one of the drivers that goes straight on the sim and into that?
Yeah, I'll probably get a few laps in tonight just to see how it goes, because I've never been there before either.
That's good. Points-wise, 20 points clear of Craig, Andy and Brad in 4th position, and just a shade under 20 behind Joel. So really good point scoring in the championship, Andy. Happy with that so far?
Yeah, I'm really happy with where we're standing in the championship, to be fair.
That's good, and obviously qualifying wasn't too bad today. I think it was 8th position, if I remember correctly. And you've been very consistent. You've not qualified outside the top 10. In fact, you've been well inside it for most of it, and that sets you up reasonably well for the race ones. Again, you've been. I think you've only had one finish outside the top 10 in the entire campaign, which was 12th for race 1 at Barcelona. So you've been really, really consistent, and I think probably the most consistent driver, maybe aside from Eric, in the championship.
Yeah, I just need to improve the times a little bit to try and match Eric. He's just that little bit further down the road than me.
Do you get any guidance? Do you get anyone coaching you, or do you just sort of learn for yourself, or you got people that you buddy up with?
No, just wing it, really.
Fair enough. Well, good luck. Congratulations. Another great win. 3 wins. Mega performance by any standard, reverse grid or otherwise. Absolutely superb stuff. So it's been a pleasure to see those, Andy. Very well done. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Yep, thanks a lot.
Cheers. Well done to Andy Dorman. Driver of the day. Difficult to pick today, but to do the announcement, let's go back to Reeve.
Yeah, well, brave me announcing the driver of the day, which has gone wrong in the past, but I am pleased to announce that Josh Martin is our driver of the day for our race weekend here at Assen. We were impressed, I think, by Josh consistency throughout both of the races. Unfortunately, he wasn't actually able to complete race 2 owing to a bit of an issue with the system. He had to perform a drive-through penalty, and the game basically didn't register it from what we can gather, so it disqualified him. However, he did impress us with his nice, comfortable and calm racing in race 1, and the same in race 2 as well. He was in the mix there and was just quietly getting on with putting in some good laps.
Yeah, decent performance, wasn't it? Coming through from 10th on the grid up to 5th in race number 1, very nearly mirrored it in race 2 as well. Barring any problems, I'm done. Do we have Josh to talk to, or are we done? I think we're done, but we can look forward to next week.
We certainly can. Next week, of course, our final round of the season at the Virginia International Raceway. Perhaps a bit more of a traditional circuit, although not one, again, that you'd immediately expect to see some touring cars at. So it will be very interesting to see our drivers squabbling for their final positions in the championship as we cross the Atlantic once again.
Very much looking forward to that. Your championship as Eric Axelson, 209 points. Scott Bugler second on 192. Is he going to be able to close up next week? Joel Lasky's third, Andy Dorman, as you heard, in fourth place. A big bun fight going on for fifth. So still plenty of issues to sort out next week. Hope that you'll be able to join us. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us this week. Rich Hayden for keeping things running nice and smoothly. And Reeve for your company online as well. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. From Reeve Taylor and myself, Richard John Neal, thanks for watching. Be nice to each other. We'll see you next week.
Between the two of them. The inside of Coates. Parker gets too heavily involved. And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Woo!